What's up guys, Mr. Caboose here, and I decided I'm going to do my own tank reviews. There's usually a lot of these out there, and I know people have their own different things to say about each different tank, and a lot of people go over like all the stats on the tank, and will tell you different things about how that benefits it. And I'm really not going to go over that. You can read your own stats, and you can look them up and see how they compare on on paper, how they compare to other tanks. Yet when playing them, they're going to play very differently. I'm going to start literally going through each tank, all the tanks through each country, all 6 of them that are here so far. If there's any updates, I'll go back and get the ones I haven't done. But I'm going to start with tier 1, then go through all the tier 2s, and so forth. And I'm going to see what you guys think. I usually have a different play style than others, and so usually this leads to me doing a lot of different things with the tank. I'm usually more aggressive and upfront, and so the way I've learned to play is to play or figure out how to fight tanks without and survive. So I usually can tell you how to survive with a tank. And so first we're going to start with the Cunningham, the T1 Cunningham. And this tank is an interesting little tank. It's like all tier 1s, they're not very strong. They don't move fast. This one moves a bit faster. I'm going to go ahead and jump into queue so we can get into a battle here. And this one has a weird design. With the turret being in the back, you usually have to play a bit differently than you would any of the other tier 1s. And this forces you to use cover a bit differently, peek out of corners a bit differently, because sometimes you'll pop around the corner and you will have your front sticking out before your rear sticks out. So that always proves to be a difficulty here. And now we're in a tier 2. So in a tier 2 battle, I would usually not be as aggressive as some people usually are in this. I'll probably stick back, maybe defend base rather than go up the hill, and camp out and hopefully be able to get some kills that way. But this game I'm actually going to go up the hill, as this tank it's fast enough that it can make it up that hill with the rest of the tanks, or the rest of your team. As you can see here, we're getting pretty fast. We're up to over 30, 35 kilometers an hour. We're actually at 40 now, going down this hill. And that's actually pretty fast. As you can see, we're keeping up with the T18, which is a bit higher of a tier 2. And so this is why this tank can be used in all tier 1 battles to get to wherever you want to go a bit faster than others. But I would prefer to play this tank in a more of a defensive role, usually helping a teammate. Of course, this is tier 1, there's not much you will do. As you can tell by the map, that we don't have much of a radar, so you can't see all your allies who are down here. As you see, we already lost 1 tank and they've lost 1. Luckily, we lost the tier 1 and they lost tier 2. Pretty good trade. But you can't see much, so you don't really know much of what's going on in the map. And so that leads you to having to try and deal with that. But like I was saying, tier 1s, usually there's not much difference with these. Pretty much all these guys are going to do is roll it out and you try and get as many kills as fast as you can. No armor, you don't have to worry about where to shoot. You're never going to have to worry about weak spots. This whole tank here is weak. Every single part of it can get penetrated by tiny guns. It's got 10 millimeters in armor all around. It's just a very weak tank overall. So you have to be very careful playing these tanks. Like you can already see, we're getting our butt whooped. We already got destroyed by the tier 2. I was expecting that to happen. It's not a very strong tank. You can't do much with it. You're going to be stuck trying to get to points. I also didn't have teammates with me, which is sort of a bummer. But it's not very strong a tank. You're going to die a lot. I wouldn't recommend this tank as the best of all tier 1s, but it can, in its situations, it can be good. Of course, they had faster tanks going up the hill. Of course, they've taken the hill now, which is bad for our team. Now we've lost the hill, and they're going to have that advantage. But yeah, just overall, it's a bad tank. So I'll go back to the garage and look at some stats while we wait for this tank to get out of battle. I'll try and keep these reviews down to, oh, I'd say 15 minutes. I'll try and keep them short. That way people don't have to sit through me talking about a game for a long, long time. But as you can tell, it's only got 10 millimeters armor all around. That leads to you not being able to defend against anything. Again, most tier 1s don't have armor, period. 115 hit points, this is not too shabby for tier 1. You can get a bit done with it. Weight weighs nothing, of course. The engine power and speed limit, this is what is one of your factors. You are allowed, and traverse speed. You can move fairly fast, and so that gives this tank the ability to get up to a point where you can sit and shoot at the enemy tanks a lot, and just dump tons of shells into them with the fast firing guns. The gun I have, and I prefer to choose guns that have higher penetration. This allows for you to, no matter what, damage the enemy, because a lot of people have issues trying just to being able to penetrate an enemy. A lot of times you're not in battles where you can sit there, stop your tank, zoom in, scope, and find that weak spot of a tank. You want to be able to hit in a general area and be able to penetrate. Such as like the IS-4, you know the driver's hatch is like straight on. You've got that little box right there to shoot, and you can just hit in that area, and you usually penetrate the tank. Of course, that's tier 10. The turret's not that fast. It's one of the slower turrets, so you're gonna have trouble if someone gets behind you and drives right past you. You're gonna have to take advantage of your traverse speed and combine that with your turret traverse to be able to switch around. Rate of fire is not too bad on the gun I have. As you could tell, it was a 6-round canister, 6-round clip, so you could fire 6 rounds. But then you got a decent reload. It takes a while to get that done. View range is pretty good, 280 millimeters and 265 signal range. I guess I'll go over some of these stats in game or out of game, because over the in between games, and just talk about them because we're waiting for this tank. And then if we check the tech tree, this leads to, of course, all the different tanks. But if we look at the T1, it's got many different games. It's got the Hispano 20 millimeter. It's got the 37, which is my preferred choice. Over this 37, it's got a bit more penetration. It's got 5 more, or 6 more, sorry. Rather than 33, you get 39. And of course, I'm looking at the farthest left penetration. We're not worrying about gold rounds. You are not going to use gold rounds in a lower tier match. This is a gun I prefer. Decent rate of fire. It's got okay accuracy. Aiming time's not the best for low tier, but it works. Some people like to choose these fire or lower damage but massive fire rate guns because you can just dump shells into them. I've always found that even at a low tier, because this has 30 penetration, of how or just the bullets, they tend to actually bounce sometimes, and it's a bit annoying when you can't actually hurt a tank of your same tier. That just gets a bit annoying. It's got, of course, tier 2 engine. That gives you a bit more horsepower. You're going to start out with the tier 1 engine, which is a bit slower, but actually not too much. You still get a good amount of horsepower. It's only 22 more, so you still be able to move fairly fast. Low limit, of course, doesn't really matter at low tier. Right in 7.6, you get 8.3. Traverse speed does get upped by 4 degrees per second, which is significant. You can actually turn fairly faster. And then turret. This gives you another 15 hit points, the turret, which is pretty good. Otherwise, one issue is your turret turns slower. Bad part of that is you can't, or bad part of using a slower turret or faster turning turret though, less hit points, and you can't use either of these two guns. You're stuck with this 37 or the original 37, which has even less penetration and less rate of fire. Of course, it's not too bad. Turret, again, has 10 millimeters armor all around, still weak, and less view range. 40 meters, not much, but still significant. And then the radio. I usually don't worry about radios, even though this one does up you 3 times or almost 3 times as much, which in low tier can be significant. You will see a bit more of your allies, and that'll be a bit helpful. Otherwise, not much. Alright, so you can see we lost that round. They took the top of the hill. That was a bit of an issue for us. Alright, we'll go into one more battle and see how it goes this time. Hopefully we'll get a tier 1. It doesn't look like it. We don't have enough tier 1s in the queue. Yeah, we're going to have another tier 2 battle here. But that's good, because it allows me to show you some of the different things that you can do with the T1. How you're going to fight with it in different things, and different playstyles against the higher tier. I usually don't worry about fighting tier 1s. It's going to be very easy if you can do it. You generally just stay behind cover, do stuff like that. Okay, and we're gonna wait for the start. Of course, it takes a while. This is the first tank I started out. I went straight down the American tech tree, and it's not a bad tank. I don't mind it that much. Pretty good tank overall. It's fun to play. You can see the turret doesn't move too fast, but you can rotate with at a decent speed. So that's what you're gonna have to use. If someone were to drive, say, right down past you and drive past you, you would have to turn to keep up with them. My bad, 5-round clip, not 6-round clip. Such as the B2. If you were to drive right past you, you would have to actually stop and turn your tank to keep up with him. But not much rushing in this tier. Sometimes some of the good players will get on and rush. But as you can see, I'm not too far behind these faster light tanks that are tier 2. You can go up hills pretty fast. You can keep up with your allies and get to key positions such as the hill on Himmelsdorf, the hill on Kampanovka. I never call it Malinovka, I always like to call it Kampanovka. Stuff like that. Always fun to do. And we are already down one. It's not that good. It was a tier. Oh, got another tank. That is not very good. 2 tier 2s down already. Of course, it's never good to lose tanks. So the T-18, when shooting at tanks that are a bit heavily armored, you're going to have a bit of trouble. This thing cannot penetrate the front of a T-18, which is sort of expected, but it can do some decent damage to a T-18 if you got around it. I'm probably going to die here.
Enemy armor is hit. Permission to engage. Target lost.
So you get some good penetrations on it. It's not a bad tank.
Enemy is hit.
It's got this bit longer reload. But this is how you're probably going to want to play this tank. Backing up behind cover, so you use the cover in front of you, and then backing up so your turret sticks out, because most of the time you won't be able to get. You wouldn't want to stick your tank out like this, because then they're seeing half my tank before I'm even out to be able to shoot at them. And then you got to get back, and your tank's still sticking out from that. I think someone's talking to me, or them. Talking to them. Their T1 got a kill. I'm gonna have to go back to base here. It seems like we're losing. They've got 2 T1s down there. Probably take them out. Or at least the 36 health one. Or L Tractor's probably gonna get killed. He's got a tier 2 supporting. Pictures. We'll see how this goes. This is gonna be a rough battle. It's already 6-9. But yeah, decent speed. I'm able to get down this hill quick enough. L Tractor didn't do much damage with those 2 T1s. But I see I can get back to this flank, be able to support fairly well. So here I'm actually going to stop and turn around, because it's a better way to fight tanks. Because you're able to stick your tank out like this rather than worry about having to fight like that. Alright, and once we finish this battle, that'll probably be the end of the video. I'm probably going to keep these things similar to this one, just to show you how to, or say some of my point of view on how to play tanks. I usually do things play a bit differently than others. I've noticed. It's very interesting, and sometimes it does throw enemy players off, I've noticed, just because of how I'm doing things. Oh, that's great. I'm the only tank left. Just because I don't like to sit around. I don't like to camp, and I don't like that. You're in a tank, and you need to get things moving.
Penetration. One of our tracks is damaged.
see how he could hit the front of my tank? A bit awkward. And so, like, one thing, ow.
We've lost a track.
See, and then something like that, he only tracked me, which is one thing you can try. Of course, it didn't work. It's tier 1. He was able to hit the side of my tank rather than my track. Alright, and that's the end of this video. Like and subscribe if you like it, and comment below and tell me how I'm doing. And if you want to see anything else, I'm always willing to do some other World of Tanks stuff, or if you have any interest in any other games you'd mind me playing,